Okay, joined today by Michael Vitullo out of our Sydney office. How are you, Michael?
I'm excellent, Drew. How are you?
I'm very well.
That's
Michael,
good.
you've been selling businesses for a long time, so it's great that you come on to share a bit of your knowledge with everyone today. Wanted to ask you today about how to sell a franchise. You've sold lots of franchises, so I wanted to discuss if you've got a franchise and you're looking to sell, what are some of the challenges? What are some of the issues that you've come across? What can people do to be better prepared for sale? Over to you, Michael. Tell us some of the issues that are involved in selling a franchise.
Well, there are a few challenges in selling a franchise, Drew. One of them would be, yeah, stating the advantages and disadvantages of owning a franchise with potential buyers. For example, there's less flexibility with a franchise versus there's an instant brand awareness when purchasing a franchise. So you've got to weigh up the advantages and disadvantages when you're discussing with a potential buyer and also the vendor. The ideal buyer with a franchise is someone that's managed operations and staff, customer service and sales. They've got a history of that in the past. That's an ideal candidate for a potential franchise, an entrepreneurial type franchise. The other challenge would be to liaise with the franchisor and understanding their workings and how they do business and how they approach a new franchisee. So understanding how they operate and work around the transfer of ownership and franchise agreements, and also the training schedules. That's important to understand how that works.
That's a good point. Understanding, like having an initial conversation with franchisors, maybe around what type of incoming buyers they may or may not approve, what they're looking for in one of their operators. I guess that each franchisor would be different, whether it's signage or hospitality or whatever type of franchise it is. So that's something I guess you dive into pretty deeply with them before we start.
Absolutely, and you get better as you go along. The more the singular franchise that you're looking at or multiple set franchises, the more you do, the more you understand their inner workings, and a lot easier. It becomes a lot easier once you've experienced, which I am, of course.
Yeah, one thing I've come across too is in the sale of a franchise, sometimes it's important to understand the fees that come along with the assignment. Every now and then there'll be a training fee for the incoming buyer, and it's important to be aware of those before you go to market so they're not a surprise.
Correct, and some of that becomes a huge upfront capital cost of a buyer, so that needs to be negated as far as taken into account as far as the whole package deal is concerned. Otherwise, the return on investment becomes diluted by the additional entry costs, I guess.
And how are you finding buyer demand for franchises in general? Is it still strong?
It is strong, especially from overseas buyers that want a ready-made business that doesn't involve too much. Well, it involves more handheld sort of upfront response from the franchise, or whereas if you go out on your own, you're looking at a new business. It's a lot more challenging for an overseas buyer, and also ticks a lot of business migration visa applications. They're sort of ready-made for business visas type buyers going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you do a bit of work with migration that they're a perfect fit for franchises sometimes, as they come with the training, makes it easy.
Yeah, correct.
And are you finding there's any particular type of franchise that's more favourable? Hospitality, automotive, and signage? Is there anything in particular that's sort of running hot at the moment?
I think service-based franchises are doing well. Ones that are returning a good return on investment that's quite diverse and has quite a diverse customer base. Ones that you can pivot from one product to another depending on the industry that you're in. So and ones that don't have involved a high entry cost.
Okay, and I guess lastly, once you've marketed the business, found the buyer, it's important to know how to manage the transaction from a contract point of view. You're dealing with the landlord, you're dealing with the buyer, you're dealing with the seller. You're also dealing with a fourth party, which is the franchisor in this transaction. So trying to understand how to bring them all together, on equal terms and make sure it's smooth takes a bit of skill.
Correct. And once you've gone through a few of those transactions, you see where the problems come up in advance, and trying to address them as soon as possible before it gets too far down the track. Also, I find that if you regards to the vendors and the purchasers and the landlord, if they're all motivated and motivated selling the business and buying the business and doing the transaction, all those things just get resolved in the end. All minds, doing well.
Yeah, fantastic, Michael. Look, I won't take up too much more of your time today. I appreciate you coming in for a quick chat about how to sell a franchise. Anyone, Michael, you're based in Sydney, obviously. Look, anyone in that region looking to sell a franchise, they can find your details on our website on morganbusinesssales.com. I'm sure you're up for a chat, particularly anyone looking for an appraisal or anyone looking on a bit of information on the process, how to sell their franchise. I'm sure you'll be happy to talk to them.
Absolutely. I always enjoy talking to vendors and buyers alike, and also their advisors accordingly. So,
yeah, great, Michael. Thanks again for your time today. Look forward to talking with you again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, Drew.
Cheers, mate.